reach any spiritual level. So if you guys are really gonna hear me out, surrendering to God is basically letting yourself flow with the Holy Spirit. So I want to be transparent. The way this all came up is because over the weekend we went camping with just the guys, and we had very strong spiritual encounter without even asking for it. We were messing around, being a bunch of goofballs, as a bunch of teenage boys and grown-ups. And we finally, it must have been around like 9 o'clock, we finally decided to go to sleep. So we went to the tent, and still we didn't sleep because we were talking and messing around. And it wasn't until maybe 30 minutes in that we started talking about church, and we started talking about topics, and we had Alfredo there with us, and he was telling us a bunch of things that was going on in his life, specifically with the wedding, and then how God has been putting his hand, filling his hand in his life. And so one thing led to another, and then Alex ended up asking me a question on like speaking in tongues, having this level of this spiritual level that you finally have, and your relationship with God is like, it's great, it's well there, it's strong. And I explained to him because I myself have already spoken in tongues many times now, and as a worship leader, it's a privilege, because from what Alex has told me was that he had never done it, and that's not a bad thing, because everybody has their time, everybody will reach it at a certain point in their life, whether you want it or you don't want it. It's gonna happen. And so with that, it comes to surrendering. So in order to do that, you must surrender yourself to God. Now, people can use it in many forms. Say, if you want problems to go away, if you want strength, if you want God to speak to you, then you're going to surrender yourself. In the way I found out is that I've come to learn how to actually call upon it, should I say it? To make myself like a rod, like lightning bolt strikes a rod. And so many people have different ways. Like we explained it to Alex, me, Angel, Alfredo. And I'm gonna explain it my way though. I told him whenever I have the feeling that God is around, that His presence is drawing near. Obviously, the first step to do is actually call upon Him and ask for more. I want His Spirit to come down. I want Him to bless us, and I want His presence to surround us completely, to the point where you basically feel the thickness in the air. And that's actually what happened that night. And that's the best way I can explain this, because I've seen it happen through my dad. I use him as an example many times. So the very first time I experienced it was in Winterfest many years ago, like 2009, 2010 now. And obviously everyone's praising, everyone's going, everyone's doing their own thing, crying out to Him. And it is true, God does listen to you individually. Because the moment I called upon Him was when I felt it overbearing. It was so much, it's overwhelming. And the way I encountered with Him personally is that I fell to my knees. I humbled myself, I bowed before Him, and I told Him the way I would feel it was going through my hands, through my feet, and I would feel it in my head, and then last, when I finally surrendered to Him, is in my chest. This like sensation that you have like burning inside, and it feels like you're not physically receiving, but you know that something's happening in you, that God is coming inside of you, and the Holy Spirit is trying to escape. And that's the whole idea, that you're praising yourself at that point. You're praising with your own body, with your own hands, and you're lifting your hands, and you're crying out and everything. But I told him it's an even more beautiful thing when you surrender and you let God do it all. It's incredible, because the way I've seen it happen to my dad is that my dad, he doesn't care what anybody has to say about him, and he'll be one of those guys that before, when we were growing up in church, we think the guy's crazy because he's dancing and screaming and yelling, and it's just like, whoa, it's a little too much, But you start to understand it once it starts happening to you as well. Now, I didn't break out a dance, or I didn't do anything like that. But when I see him doing it, it's because I understand God